If everyone could take their seats, please. The chair would like to call to order tonight's regular meeting of the CUSD 201 Board of Education, February 11th, 2020. And roll call, please.
Mr. Armstrong.
Here.
Mrs. Charlton.
Here.
Mrs. Coyle.
Here.
Mr. Price.
Here.
Mr. Rudy.
Here.
Mrs. Strohmeyer.
Here.
Ms. Wilson.
Here.
Thank you.
If you could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance. Okay, the first item on the agenda is approval of minutes. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the January 21, 2020 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried then. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session of the January 21st, 2020 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any,
That was it.
you would, okay. Any noes? Okay, motion carried. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the February 4th, 2020 special meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, motion carried. Okay, public comment. I do have one card here. Is it Michelle? Yes. Okay, if you could come up here.
Hi, I'm Michelle Gignard. I founded the Chicago Flyers, and in 2009, I came here. I was very nervous. I was starting up my program in the western suburbs, and I requested that we have the ability to practice at Westmont track. You guys said, yay, go for it. You gave me Judy DeHaye's name, and we have trained over 800 kids since 2009, primarily at the Westmont track. The only thing we really do is run in circles. Sometimes we've been able to store things there. We do run the steps. We do run across the field until the bees come out in late July because of the dew. But we're very benign in what we do. We offer it to everybody, this program, and it's a safe training place. And a lot of kids, they go on to run even in college, but those aren't the ones that I really care about. No, I do care about them. But we have 10 team values that the kids, every single practice, have to nominate their peers. So it's based on 10 values, and it's the most updated training methodology. We don't train slowly. It's all about speed, but mainly it's really fun. We hire like the ice cream truck to come into the neighborhoods, and they have to all run around and try to find it. They're escorted by their coaches, but we make running fun. It's a great program. It's creative. And in the last 2 years since I've come back, I tried to make it go in the city and it didn't work, and I'm humbled, and I'm back serving my community, and I have lots of people excited about it. But since I've come back, I'm getting a sense of, extreme responsibility, as they should, the administrative office. But I just would feel better knowing that it's okay, we'll pay what the required dues are and everything, but I just want the blessing for us to be out there on the track. And because it's like my favorite place to go. And this is a picture of us. We had only like 6 paying kids last year as we were rebuilding, but no one is ever out there on that track in the summer. It's beautiful. It's like my track. No, I just said that. And there's no one ever there. So I just would love it. Here's another view with no people over there. Yeah, I don't know. I always stand there and take pictures. I'm just asking that to have your permission for us to use it again. That's it. Any questions?
I guess you could contact the district office
Okay.
for that.
All right. I have, and I'm not hearing from them, so I don't really know what's going on, and that's why I'm here. So,
Could we get her information
Sure.
afterwards? Okay.
would you like my business card?
Yeah, if you could give us one. Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Okay, the consent agenda is next. Any comments or questions? First, I just want to say, Kevin, thank you for the memo that you gave to us about the policy second reading. It was very informative to help. I know I asked for that at the last meeting, and I think it was very informative to, as I was reviewing for this second reading. So thank you. I appreciate that. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Number 1, personnel recommendations. 2, policy second reading. And 3, approval of additional January 2020 expenditure report.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Rudy.
Yes.
Mrs. Stromeyer.
Yes.
Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong.
Yes.
Mrs. Coyle.
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, motion carried. Okay, information discussion. We'll start out with the Westmont High School DeFore Award.
Good evening, everybody. It's pretty special to be able to be standing here and talking about the DeFore Award with all of you and share it with our community. Before I do, I want to just introduce some of our colleagues who are here tonight. Administration members, Megan Vervink and Dr. Kevin Weck. They are just wonderful human beings, first and foremost, but they're outstanding educational leaders, and they're a big part of why we have received this award. And representing the incredible teaching staff at Westmont, who are just, I think, the very best. Debbie Bolger, who teaches in our our family consumer economics program. Anna O'Shell, who's our department chair for English, and Lori Erasmus, who is our department coordinator and chair for science. So we live in an age of hyperbole, but I want to say this. This is, as you'll hear again tonight, the most prestigious award in American education. If there's, it carries with it the biggest paycheck of $25,000, but the check is secondary to the honor. If anybody knows of a more prestigious or more important award in American education that a single school can earn, then please let us know what that award is, and we'll go out and win that one too. But you're going to see in the next few minutes how rigorous this process was, and how intense the competition is, and how widespread this movement is, not only in all 50 states, but through different countries throughout the world. And we were not, often I'm here, I'm telling you we're in the top 1% in the state or top 1% in the country. We were named the best. That's something that's probably the most pervasive movement in American education today. That was a complete team effort, from board members to superintendent and administrators throughout the district, to parents, to students, community members who do and don't have kids in our system, to all our colleagues, pre-K through 12, and certainly the students and the staff at Westmont High School. I want to go over the process. I will be brief, even though it took us months and to put this application together, literally, you'll see that. And it really is the work of almost 8 years that culminated in us being named the very best in the United States of America. So, if you could, just very briefly, go to that first page, titled 1. These were just some of the criteria. So some people look to the Blue Ribbon Award, which is given to one of the most prestigious awards in American education. It doesn't come with any monetary reward, and it's given to approximately 1,000 or more schools in the country, and it's based almost exclusively on test scores. Where this award certainly looks at test scores and student performance, but it looks at, as you will see, dozens of criteria, just outlined briefly in the 35 pages, and trust me, this is the abbreviated portion of it. But that first page, we had to give an overview of our mission, vision, and values, our goals, our beliefs, our commitments, and I won't read these all to you, but we had to give evidence of how we built the curriculum, our interventions, our monitoring programs, how we attended to the needs of every student. It went on and on and on. And then on page 2, numbered in your handout, some of the artifacts, because they want to see results. They don't want to hear about good intentions. There are many hardworking, intelligent teachers who are working in professional learning communities throughout the nation, but it's not easy to sustain results the way that our school has. On page 3, 4, and 5, you'll see the 27 essays that were 500 words each that became mine and Megan's part-time job in September and October. And that was, scrutinized by the committee that you'll see in just a minute. So there were 27 500-word essays that we had to complete that really covered every aspect of a quality school, from climate and culture to the systems you built, the programs, the interventions, the preparation programs, the building of collaborative teams. It's pretty incredible. Now, I didn't write off all those essays, but on pages 6, 7, and 8, you'll get a sample of one of them. On pages 9, 10, 11, and 12, you get an idea about the application process that we had to fill out to just be considered. And this does not include a good portion of time that we had to dedicate to putting together a video that summarized our accomplishments that, of course, you viewed at a previous board meeting and that's available online to anybody who's willing to see it at Westmont High School DeFore Award 2019. The rest of the pages, 23 through 26, 27, just our scatter plots, graphs, artifacts, data points, survey results, articles, book chapters that were written, presentations we've made throughout the country, books where we've been highlighted. So this is just a quick summary of the application process and of all that went into it. It's pretty intense, as you can see. So, but as we say, we're here tonight. Here is the beautiful statue, 2020 DeFore Award. As I would argue, you can see from the depth and the breadth of the criteria that was used, called the most prestigious award in American education. Now, that's almost hard to fathom, because here we are, little Westmont High School in the middle of a neighborhood, just this middle-class, nice school, to say, can we really be the best in the nation? Well, there are not only the criteria you've seen in the essays that you could read online, but there were a group of 10 of the most prestigious educational leaders in the country who reviewed the applications of schools and then selected Westmont based on our results. So, to become a model school, that's the first stage. There's over 28,000 high schools in America. And you can go to this PLC locator and look at all the evidence that every school has to provide, including from Westmont. There's only 32 high schools that are national model schools. There's only 4 in Illinois. Of course, we're one of them, and we were selected, and we had a ceremony sometimes back. But here's to the real point, and I want you to get a scope of this. There are over 30,000 schools, and that's a conservative estimate, 30,000 schools in the United States that practice what we call PLC concepts or call themselves professional learning communities, including most of the schools in our neighborhoods that surround us and in this region, in this state. But it's in every single state in the United States of America and in Singapore, Canada, Indonesia, New Zealand, Australia, and spreading to the Middle East. So this isn't something that's just nationwide. This is becoming a worldwide movement. So out of those 30,000 schools that are practicing these concepts, and everybody wants to be excellent at it, right? But only one school was named the best, and that was Westmont High School, just to get a scope of how powerful this was. So you have to become a model PLC, and you can go on the PLC locator to get an idea about what that encompasses. You've seen the application process, the 27 essays. We had to put together the video that you've also seen. 10 artifacts, and Meg got very clever because we had dozens of artifacts, but she thought if we put it in one PowerPoint, we could contain multiple artifacts. So that's how we snuck in some more of our evidence. And 7+ years of data. From that, there were 3 finalists, and I was surprised because I had been tracking this for the last couple of years, and we anticipated a school out of California we thought might be the winner, another school out of Colorado. There was another school out of Wyoming that was a finalist last year. So we kind of knew our competition. But from those 3 finalists, there was one winner announced. Now, there were 5 different rounds of review where people read these essays and then culled the number of applicants down to the finalists. But just very quickly, you see These are the people who are on the review committee. And I won't go through every one of their names, but they're some of the top writers, authors, thinkers, presenters, consultants, practitioners in American education. Every one of these people is pretty renowned in their own area, and some of them are considered the leader in their topic area in the United States. Now here's an example. These are the 3 schools that were finalists. Mountain Meadow Elementary School in Washington State, Lander Valley High School in Wyoming, and then of course Westmont High School in Illinois. I put the picture of Janelle Keating up there to get a sense of this. Janelle has written several books on quality education. I was at Lisle High School a few years ago, and in their main commons area, some of the work that she had created with her colleagues on how to conduct a PLC journey was hanging in Lisle's commons area, like it hangs up in high schools, in schools all across the country. So she's influenced not only her own school, but schools throughout the United States, and written several books. She's the superintendent of Meadow Mountain Elementary School in Washington State. And Westmont beat out her school. To give you an idea about the scope of this. And Marie and I had a chance to hear Janelle talk. Kevin's had a chance to hear her talk before, so has Kevin and Megan and Lori. The presentation we went to was incredible. This is an amazing practitioner, author, leader, and her schools are fantastic. But to give you a sense of what we've accomplished, our school was chosen by all those criteria as being more effective as PLCs than these amazing schools. So we were at the conference, the summit. There are literally 20 to 25 of these gatherings every summer where people from all over the country and from different countries throughout the world come to gather to listen to speakers and learn more about these practices. There were 2,400 people who had taken time away from their schools to be present at this, and that's where we earned the award. So we've cut this video from 30 minutes to about 5.5, but I would like to show it to you to give you a sense of what happened there in Phoenix on January 30th.
The Award Award is the most prestigious award, the most prestigious form of recognition that a school can receive. This year's applications were exceptional, and the selection was by far our most difficult. Make no mistake, these are exceptional schools, exceptional places of learning. Thank you. So how did this year's recipient of the DeFore Award achieve such extraordinary levels of success? How did they accomplish their goal of ensuring high levels of learning for all? This year's recipient is the embodiment of the idea that all kids can learn. I want to share a few of the results this school has achieved that demonstrates that when done well, the PLC process can literally change lives. This school set a goal of having 97% of their kids graduating on time. When they began the PLC journey, they had a good graduation rate of 88%, but that was not enough. During the 6 years, coincidentally, since they began implementing the PLC process, their graduation rate has rose and had held at a steady rate of 99% of their students, plus 100% of their Latino and African American students are graduating. Same 6-year period, the school moved from 29 to 303 passed exams, from 3 to 65 AP scholars, and from 2 to 71 exams passed by underrepresented students. All of this was accomplished with the same resources, the same enrollment, and the same demographics. And finally, the state has just enacted a new recognition system where they identify schools as being at different levels. And it's been in place for a couple of years. In the last 2 years, this school has been exemplary. And what's interesting about that is that they are the highest performing school in their economic category. They outperform many other schools with a much lower percentage of high poverty kids. And they have the highest poverty rate for any school in the exemplary category across the entire state. So give them a round. Please join me in recognizing this year's recipient of the DeFore Award, Westmont High School.
Since Westmont High School.
So this time, we've got couple little presentations. First of all, Matt has something for the high school. And Jack, I don't know if you're accepting. Who's accepting on behalf of you?
Yeah, our team can. Thank you so much.
Okay. $25,000 check on behalf of Solution Tree to Westmont. All right. And then next, the actual statue of trophy.
I love Westmont High School. There's no other word to describe it. I love our teachers, our students, our entire school community, and there are incredible people in the work that they've done. And I've witnessed that every day for the last 8 years, and their hard work is just exemplary. I'd like to introduce members of our team today. First of all, our superintendent, Kevin Carey, who brought PLCs to our district 8 years ago. Marie Charlton, who's our board president and a parent and a great leader in her own right. To my administrative team members, Dr. Kevin Weck and Megan Vervink, who I've seen their tireless efforts. They're relentless in their compassion for our students and our staff. And then 2 incredible teacher leaders, Mark Delisle and Lori Erasmus, who really have done this work, and we've struggled together. And the only reason why we're standing here today is because we've learned from many, many mistakes. But we continue to grow. And the thing I admire the most about them is at this conference, they knew they were finalists, but the main conversation was around how we could get better, how we needed to continuously improve. And that is truly, they exemplify the spirit of our school. We're proud of the good things that have happened, but we're even more committed to our students. And we check our egos at the door, and we look at ways that we can continuously improve. And this leadership team embodies that. Please give them a round of applause. The most important thing that we teach our students is to be compassionate human beings who make a difference in this world. Because well-educated, knowledgeable, talented people sometimes don't use their gifts in the right way. So really, we emphasize that our students have to be compassionate human beings who make a positive difference in this world. That, beyond all the results, is our true commitment. And our teachers see the best in each other. They see the best in our students. They think about what they can do versus those things outside of their control. They don't spend time spend time complaining. They use every minute they can to problem solve. That truly embodies the spirit of our school, and I think the spirit of PLC work. And as I said, continuous improvement is what we're about. To our wonderful Westmont students, I've told them for years that I thought they were the best students in the country, and today we get to celebrate that. They have gone the extra mile. They've taken the more difficult classes. They've spent the extra time and work, and I'm really so proud of them for that, and the entire community that supports us. So we have been on this incredible journey, and this award is just jet fuel to keep us moving and keep learning and keep improving every way you can. So that was in Phoenix on January 30th. As I say, this is something that everybody in this room and in our community has a stake in and has a part in making come to life. Here's a copy of the... So we'll return to this in a minute, but we attended every session. We enjoyed it. We learned amazing things. We're here because Rick and Becky DeFore have passed away, but their kids were present at the ceremony. In addition to going to sessions, I told my staff that a friend of mine is the president of Marist High School just on the road here, and he said, could we pick your brain about PLC concepts? And I said, yeah, that'd be great. And so I told the team, we'll go there about 30, 40 minutes and I'll buy you a dinner. And then about 2.5 hours later, literally, we left. But Larry said, who's the president of Marist, that the best session of the time was the time he spent with his team and with us. So here we are with Dr. Eric Twiddell. We learned from him, and we're gonna send some of our teachers to his school to learn even more. This is Mike Matos. I know Marie wants to say something about this in a couple minutes, but he was good enough to visit our school district last spring. He's one of the top people in the country in culture and RTI work. But we got to meet these people, and the cool thing about Mike is he challenged us. He had read our resume, he had read our accomplishments, he's been to our school, and he's really proud of the work, but he said these are the things that you can do to continuously improve. This is Mr. Delisle with Dr. Tim Kainold. He's probably the most influential person in American education when it comes to mathematics, and just the chance to spend time together, learn from these people was quite powerful. This is a very quick 20-second video of when we met with our kids and we unveiled the award. Important part of this is getting students to dream big and believe that they can be amazing. That's not always easy, but I think this award kind of highlights, look at what you've done, students. Look at what you've accomplished. And it's really powerful. So it's important to celebrate these things with them. And all right, so just a few pictures of our kids with the check and the award. Why is that important? Because as I said, I think it really is crucial that they understand the importance of this award and that they see that they can reach greatness, and that not only can they have, we have, as an entire community. It's really powerful. So, and now the screen is freezing up for some reason. I do not know why, but did that do it? There you go. Okay. So it's just pictures of our kids with the trophy. And the bottom line is, it's a whole community celebration. We're grateful for all the support. It's incredible, but the reason why it's incredible is because we all did it together. And so we're so grateful, but it's really something to celebrate, and it's acknowledgement of all the hard work that everybody puts in all the time. So thank you for that. Marie, you wanted to comment on a couple photos?
1 second.
I do want to, but can you all stand up for a minute from the high school? We just wanted, okay.
Great job. It's beautiful, but we know it's everybody, everybody. The kids who come to us don't just pop up in 9th grade, and they come from homes, and they come from supportive community, and there's leadership and direction from the board and superintendent, from everybody, so. Kevin, you want to say something real quick, and then I'm done.
No, go ahead. I just have one. We're all welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kevin Weck. I'm one of the assistant principals at Westmont High School. I first want to say thank you for having us here tonight. It's a really special night. I think about, 14 years ago when I first got into education, the purpose of that was, to kind of get into education and make a difference in the lives of our students and our community. And I really feel like this trophy that we earned, the Dufour Award 2020, really is symbolic of that, of us making a difference in Westmont, at Westmont High School, with our community, our students, our teachers. And I'm really proud of that. And when I think about the journey that we've been on, it's been fun, it's been amazing, but there's been a lot of work to go into that. We do have the best students in the country. Not number 2, not number 3, we have the best. These students have accomplished a lot academically with AP, state testing, academic achievement, just a ton of stuff. But it's not just that. It's that plus who they are as individuals, how they treat others, what they give back to the community. We've just seen such a tremendous amount given back to the Westmont community that it really attests to them being the best in the country. Also, our faculty work tirelessly to make sure that each and every day our students are given the best education possible. And they will bend over backwards to make sure that they are successful, and having those tough conversations and showing up to work early, staying late. They'll do whatever it takes to make sure that our students are successful at any of the goals that they set forth for themselves. And then we have Ms. Vervink. Ms. Vervink wears so many different administrative hats, I can't keep count. She's the glue at Westmont High School. She brings it all together, and that's really why we're here today, is because, yes, she's helping Jack with the 500-word essays, but she's also working with our students to make sure those who are on the F list are getting the work turned in on time, to make sure that they're ready to graduate on time. So she is really the glue and the reason why we're here today. But then going back to Mr. Balderman, I don't think he's a very humble person. He's not a person that wants the limelight. He doesn't want the credit for everything that's happened at Westmont High School over the past 8 years. But I think it's really because of his leadership that we're here today. His vision, his drive, his compassion for all of our students, our faculty, our community. He makes a personal connection with everybody he encounters each and every day. And he truly cares about them as human beings. And he wants to make sure that they have the best opportunity after they leave our building. And to give them, the tools that they need to be successful, whether it's with work, with their family, with college, all of those. It's really a testament to who he is and that he gives every ounce of energy to what we're doing at Westmont High School. And I know that he doesn't hear it enough. He is just an outstanding man in terms of creating, he's a role model for our students, but he's also a role model for our faculty and our administrative team. I love going to work, not just because of our students and our faculty, because I really feel like our team comes together and we're interdependent. We rely on each other. And this award right here embodies that people come together for the right reasons. It's a common goal. And without one of those team members, we wouldn't be here. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for coming together on this. Thank you.
Can you put that picture up, the first one? I just wanted to, I was so amazed at this whole,
Oh, this one? Oh, there we go.
go to the other one first, now that you got that one.
This one?
Keep going.
It's backwards. Done. That one.
Okay, this was, I took a couple pictures because I found this incredible. This team went out there and to, one of the 3 finalists for this spectacular award. And this was the first day, Wednesday, 8 o'clock, 8 a.m. And at the front row, sitting at a conference, ready to learn. And it just struck me, I just had to snap this picture because, again, one of the 3 finalist schools who was there being honored, and these people are sitting in the front row, ready to learn. So I just found that amazing. And then if you could go to that other one with Mike Mattis, then there was a little reception and people were talking. And this is Mike Mattis there. He came to our school last year, and again, one of the world-renowned educators, well, second only to our school. But anyway, he came to our school, and I happened to go to school and listen to him talk, and he was an incredible speaker. And he was one of the people who Jack listed as who determined who the award was. And he is standing there, and I just had to back away. He's standing there talking to the team. Okay, what are you going to do next? What's next? What are you going to do? Where are you going to go? And this was Wednesday night or something, and I just found those 2 snapshots just to be amazing because, again, they're standing there and they're listening to him challenge them to keep going. And I just really wanted to say, 3 days of meetings, and again, other schools might have just shown up for the last day, but no, these people were sitting in rooms. Jack was in a number of them, and everybody. So that just touched me a lot. So proud to be part of a community like this. So I just wanted to share that. And then there was that other picture of Mark Delisle meeting his math, there's a math geek meeting another math geek, and it was just really nice. So anyway, I just really wanted to say that. I thought it was just impressive. So thank you all. If anybody wants to hold that trophy, it's really, really heavy, and you want to pick it up and, Anyway, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else have anything? Okay.
Well, I feel like we could talk for like hours, thanking you guys for all your hard work. And we want to make sure we get on to business, but I just echo how proud we are of you guys and all your hard work. And it's pretty amazing. There's so many things. I was going through your 35 pages of information and like pointing to Judy and Joel, like, look at this, look at this. Things like the reduction in out-of-school suspensions, that PowerPoint slide is really powerful. It's more than just AP scores. It's a culture, and that's something that, as we talk about strategic planning and moving our district forward, we had a great parent meeting last night, and that was one of the comments I heard in my group was how safe the high school is and how little discipline issues there are at the high school. So all those things are very important. So to celebrate all that you've done and to keep moving forward as we get into our strategic plan.
I want to bring up one more thing that reminded me, just as during a break time, I was walking down the hall and I happened to be behind a couple other educators, and I heard these women talking. This was a Wednesday or something, like 100% graduation rate. Seriously? Who in the world can get a 100% graduation rate? That's just crazy. And this was even before the award, and I thought to myself, that's the difference. When you shoot for it, and then his presentation was that our goal was 99. And it was just another eye-opening thing. You know, we talk about this all the time here, but to hear people outside of our school just in the hall talking, so pretty cool.
I just want to say one thing. So first of all, congratulations to all of you. And I think what I'm going to take away from this is really obviously this very positive feeling that the high school has won this award, but also Dana mentioned the strategic plan. I think for all of us and for this community, this is inspiration for what we can continue to achieve as a district. Through the strategic planning process, we're talking about a lot of things that we need to achieve or overcome or celebrate and build upon. And this is just proof that if you have a plan and you work the plan and you hire the right people and you support your people and you support your students, that we can do anything as a district. So I am personally going to use this as inspiration as we continue to go down this path of planning and working towards, you know, what's the next level of, we're not perfect, but we're not done yet. So thank you. This is great.
And thank you mostly for highlighting the compassionate aspect that you have brought, and that extends throughout all our buildings in our unit district. I think that sets the stage. You know, when I first was on the board, some questions that were posed to us in kind of a more difficult time frame was, what do you want your district, who do you want us to be like? Who do you want your district to be like? And, you know, I give a lot of credit to Kevin for kind of setting our own vision for that with the small giants and kind of working and say, we don't need to be like anyone else. We just need to be what's the best. And the best for us, and the best for our community, and the best for our students. And I'm just so happy that over the decade or so that I've been here to be part of that and watch it progress and provide some steady leadership and guidance from where I sit to ensure that what we wanted to have happen, happened here. And we came so far from where we were then to where we are now, and I have no doubt that, you know, that can continue on into the future. So congratulations to administration, staff, everyone throughout our district, and our students, our families, our whole community. It really is a wonderful thing to celebrate. And we've come very far, and we have, you know, much more to accomplish and celebrate. So thank you.
I guess I'll just add just very slightly, you know, over the past several years, you guys have come to us several times and just talked about all the accomplishments the students have been doing, our raise in class ranking, our national recognition and all that. So I guess it's the sales manager in me that says, what's next?
You know, before,
No, I don't.
it's not on the agenda, Jack. I did want to just follow up on something Joel just said, because that was talked about a lot, the culture. That came up a lot in a lot of these pieces. And one of the things that all of the head honchos who were looking at all this, who gave out the award and selected our school, talked about the culture of our school. And to me personally, that spoke volumes because of what you're talking about, Joel. It's like, you know, if you don't have a culture that everybody cares and that students care for each other and the teachers care for the students and all of that, you can put anything in place you want to do, but it won't work. And that, to me, I think that was so overwhelming. It is easy to talk about numbers, but boy, when you bring in that element, it makes all the difference in the world. And so I, as a board member and as a parent, appreciate that more than you will ever know. So, and what's next? So we'll see you at the next meeting.
No, that was not an invite.
All right, anyway, thank you again very much. I will say it was pretty funny, though. You can't tell from that, but when on the assembly on Friday, the kids were out of their minds. Of course, they found out already because of social media, but they were all sitting there with their phones, and they were going back. But they were really excited, and when the kids were coming up and talking, it's like, well, that's what it's about, you know. So it was a good day. All right, thank you very much.
Marie, can I make a quick suggestion? It's not about the high school topic. We have Joe sitting here in the audience, and I don't know if we want to move up the capital project reporting right now and not make him sit through our class session, our class size discussion and other things, or you just want to keep the agenda rolling the same way? Does it matter?
Do we don't have much on any of those topics, right? Or do we? I don't care.
The summer school program will go quick. I don't know about class size discussion. That's more of a board.
I don't care.
So it's up to the board.
It's fine with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We good? Okay.
Both hands, Kevin.
Want some help?
The check. Leave the check.
Okay, so do we want to move then to the capital project?
Sure.
Okay, let's do that.
Is that okay with Kim?
Yep.
Okay.
Let's do that.
All right. So the facility committee met and did an extensive review of.
Kevin, before you go on, could you just tell people that this document's been updated from what's
Yeah,
in
you
the
do
board
have
docs?
just on the last page, just the last little section, estimated cost has been updated. Okay, just with more of a tabular form. So, anyway, the facility committee met and did an extensive review of, all of our facility needs. And, one of the things that we really wanna start focusing on is, we have some very complex projects, that need to be done. And we need to start planning out, a year or so in advance. So that's one of the things that we're doing tonight. These are not projects that we're looking to do the summer of 2020, but looking to do starting in the summer of 2021. But they are going to take that much time to go through, review, develop, plan, put the bids together, et cetera. So that's what we're looking at this evening. We went through and prioritized a few projects. The first one being replacing the building automation system at Westmont High School. And I don't know how detailed of an explanation you want on that. We can always have Joe talk about that. But the estimated replacement cost for that project is $828,000. We also, we know our needs at Manning are significant, and one of the first things we were looking at were plumbing-related repairs there. There've been some repairs that we've had to be doing, and so we need to replace some of the piping. Right now, we have an estimated cost of about $252,000 for that project. And as we were talking about that, we also discussed what other things we could do in conjunction with that plumbing once we're doing plumbing. Well, there might be certain, bathroom fixture upgrades and things like that that we could do. But as we were discussing that a little bit further with our architect and the engineer, we know that that is a very complex problem. And so right now, this is the $252,000 is a very rough estimate. And once you start going in and replacing like bathroom fixtures and things, then there are other requirements that come into place, like ADA compliance. And so the scope of that, doing anything kind of beyond some basic piping may just grow astronomically. So that project has a lot more research that needs to be done, but that's one of the things that we, again, why we're looking at things now to begin investigating those things until we have appropriate lead time to look at the projects. Okay, and then a couple other needs that have come up in the Buildings and Grounds Department is replacing the Kubota tractor. And we've had to have some, quite a few repairs done to that are costly. And so there's a couple of different options that we've looked at, replacing with a John Deere tractor and Deere attachments, and that cost is $55,000. We could use a Deere tractor, but with a different brand of attachments, Land Pride, for $47,000. We could just do a Kubota track and mower deck only, and the lifting capacities are slightly different. That's $45,000. And if we looked at a Kubota tractor with the same lifting capacity as the Deere, that's about $60,000. So that tractor is actually more than the Deere. That purchase would be made from our O&M fund if the board chose to do that. And we're also looking at purchasing a secondary 1445 tractor, which we use for some of the snow removal and for some grass cutting as a backup unit, and that estimated cost is $8,100, and again, that would be from the O&M fund. So the district currently has about $1.3 million in working cash funds that can be used for projects. Right now, we're looking at, and we also have $242,000 in TIF money. The TIF money, that was another agenda item for the board, but currently the TIF money is $242,310. That money can only be used at Manning. And so, anyway, when we're looking at these projects, the estimated cost of the projects that the committee considered, the building automation system at the high school was $828,000. The piping at Manning, $252,000. So an estimated total of a little over almost $1.1 million. And so again, for the piping, we could use the TIF funds that we have on hand, so $242,311. We can use remaining money from our previous bonds, so it's $1.2 million. So funds available for the projects are almost $1.5 million. So if we took that 1.5 million and those costs came in at the $1,080,000, we'd still have about $420,000 of additional working cash money that we could use for other projects, or as we look at that piping, if we decided we wanted to do restroom renovation or some other things, could be used for that. And it's important for everybody to note, TIF funds can only be used at Manning because that school is in the TIF zone. But the working cash monies can only be used for projects. So we can't buy Kubota tractors with that money. It can only be for renovations, life equipment at those schools, like the building automation system, things like that.
I put a little paragraph here at the end because I know for myself, I am not a financial expert and never have ever professed to be. So for me, it was helpful, especially after some previous conversations, to talk about, and Gary and I both have been on the facilities committee for quite a number of years, and And it sometimes gets, like, we have a, 25-page document here of all of the work that needs to be done in the district, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and it's important to mention that. But I guess some of the things that I look at as one board member and as someone on the committee is like, okay, what kind of money do we have? Because you can only spend what you have. So we did look, and the committee, we discussed the TIF money and bond money, and so we looked at, okay, what is it, and this is how my brain works, what is it that we have that we can bring to the board that we say, what is the highest priority? Because as a board member, I can't say that I do. We have to rely on our staff and administration. So for me, I kind of put this together like this way, and I don't know if it's helpful to anyone else. It's just, to me, it basically talked about the necessary work that had to be done and what money could we use. So that's why I wrote this out, and Kim and I were tweaking it a little bit this afternoon. So just that's from my perspective. Obviously, in the past, as the TIF money was coming in, obviously it's nowhere near what was estimated, and so there's been talk through the years, ever since the TIF started, do we spend the money or do we wait and do something with it, till there's a big bucket of money. So I guess one of the things the committee talked about, and we can all talk at the board table, is, since Manning does need so much work, should we use it? So the committee did say maybe we should now. So anyway, I just wanted to put a paragraph in there because it just helped me to kind of focus on how much money do we have, what are our highest priorities, go from there. So
I think in discussing priority on this, one of the points to understand, when Joe brought his list of priorities to the facilities committee, is to understand the cost benefit of tackling these things when we're tackling them and not letting them wait, because especially the building automation system, which is a large project, and it will take a couple of years to get it all in place. It's not something that we can snap our fingers with. But keep in mind, Joe brought it to our attention that when one small piece of this whole system stops working, it costs us $40,000 or more. And then it's also a 2-month lead time to get anything done on it. And so then it costs us, there's cost in staff to monitor these things that would have been monitored otherwise. And it's a progressively, it's a downward slide as far as expense goes on this, and it's something we can put a stop in quickly. And as Marie said, we have the funding to do it, understanding that the district is operating on a deficit budget right now. This is money that can only be spent in a certain way by state statute. So we have the opportunity to do it, and we think we should take advantage of it. And as far as the TIF money goes, it's very up in the air to me, is from what I understand, when we're going to see more, less, how, when, who, I don't know. And we have enough to take care of a very, very big issue at Manning, damn near enough. And so I think it's worth getting involved in that. And I also like the idea of holding on to some of that working cash, because this is one of those projects that is going to be healing a scab. We just, there's going to be things behind those walls that we don't know about as we start to do all this, and it always leads to abatement issues. It always leads to different issues that come up throughout a project of this scale. And so I think it's, both of these are incredibly important to do, and we have the opportunity to do it. I think we should seize it.
Well, I was on the committee. I agree with this. I want to see the district keep moving forward. It's, as Maria had said, we've been on this committee for a number of years, and there's always been these big projects that we haven't been able to do. So, being able to accomplish some of them, I think, is very important. These are the types of projects that you're not going to be able to go to your community to and say, hey, can I raise your property taxes so we can buy new pipes for Manning? I mean, that's just, there's nothing beautiful about that. There's no appeal for the people to want to do that. So being able to get this done. I also truly hope that we can do some more of the projects at Manning once we get some more additional numbers in, see where we actually are, but I'm definitely on board with all this. It makes sense to me.
I don't have any
Does
concerns.
anybody have any?
So the only thing Gary was telling me about the facilities committee meeting, and the only thing I brought up, I said, hey, what about the roof at the, at the high school? Because I know that one time I was in there for some function, and there was like a garbage can here kept getting this drip, and another one over there getting that drip. And so I was under the impression that that was gonna be a big, you know, repair job. And,
It is, and those things, obviously roofs are still on there. There's still a very large project at the junior high that's there. And so, again, we've looked at all of those and tried to prioritize, again, greatest need first and start picking them off. And then also, the other thing, you know, we do have money in our O&M fund for some projects, but we'd like the district to start again setting aside reserve for some of these other big projects. So as we get into this a little bit more, we'll be discussing that a little bit more as well, and what types of monies we need to be reserving for some of these repairs and things like that. We've had a lot of unexpected repairs come up on different systems throughout this year. And so, again, starting to address some of these things, like for the building automation system, when those units go out, we can't monitor those electronically, and so somebody has to go physically into rooms and do things and try and adjust temperatures and things like that. And so now our staff who should be doing other things is trying to do that. So, we know those needs are great. At some point down the road, we should have some capacity to issue more working cash funds. We'll come to the board at a later time with that. So there are some other options. We will obviously try and, you know, investigate any grant opportunities that may exist for some of these things. I don't know, Joe, if you have other things that you want to add.
So the big thing that we identified with the roofs was that we could spend money doing patching as opposed to replacing them, because it's more of a maintenance issue than a replacement issue. When we talked to the architect, he said that we could spend money on inspections for the roof, surveys of the roofs, and then making major repairs in certain sections that are where we're getting big leaks. The reason that we put the building automation system ahead of the roofs was because, like John had mentioned, when we actually had one go out in the beginning of December, and it's now getting replaced next Monday, the 17th. And that's just because of the planning that's involved. They have to assign a project manager. There's lead time to get the controller. So in that time, we have no control of the department that unit serves, which right now is the science department, actually. And because one of those going out costs about $18,000. So, and they were installed in 1999. So it could be a lightning storm and 6 of them go out. It's kind of just the situation that we're in. It's just, it's an electrical component. They're old and they just go out. So because of that, we made that the number one. The piping at Manning, we initially looked at that number and didn't know exactly what it included. And when we investigated it more, we found that it only includes the basement piping. So that does not include the bathrooms, upstairs, second floor, or basement. We are going to investigate that more to get a closer number. But again, with a project like that, it's kind of silly to do that without renovating the bathrooms, updating, because what they have to do is go into those bathrooms and open up the walls and get to the piping. So because it's that invasive, it's a good time to renovate the bathrooms. I mean, it's just a matter of timing, essentially.
Well, and a matter of the cost to renovate the bathrooms, because now once you
Right.
have to make them ADA compliant, it's not just replacing, initially we're kind of looking at things, it's just, replacing faucets or fixtures.
Right.
Well, no, it's much more extensive when you have to do those upgrades. So, again, we have to look at that and see what all that's going to entail, to see if we can even do anything beyond
Right.
that initial part.
When it's economy, sorry to interrupt, but it's an economy of scale. Once we start to open up X part of a room, let's put it back together the way that we should put it back together, instead of putting it back together once and then having to take it apart, put it back together again. And the same thing with the roof. I mean, the roof
Right.
it was an economic issue. We've spent a heck of a lot less patching the roof over the course of the years than we would putting these building automation systems and
Right.
replacing those.
I mean, what I kind of did was almost like an audit. So I went back 5 years on all 3 accounts, the capital account, the repair account, and then the parts account. And kind of looked at exactly what was the money being spent on, what were the common things, what was the big ticket items, and kind of then listed, okay, we're spending X amount of dollars on this, and it's significant, so this should be number 1. When I did the roof, I did not see a lot of money going towards the roofs over the course of that 5 years. There was 2 major repairs at the high school, and then all of the roof work at the junior high was done in-house by the custodian. He's actually an ex-roofer, so he was doing a lot of stuff just to repair leaks and things. So I mean, I understand that the roofs are an issue, there's leaks, but I think we can kind of extend those by just doing some major repairs instead of a full replacement. Just because the other needs are financially more of a risk, I would say. Same thing with the plumbing at Manning. I mean, that was very obvious where all the money at Manning was going to is plumbing. It's all pipe repairs, leaks, almost all of it is for that, so.
Yeah, I think that the Facilities Committee has really done a good job breaking down the 2 most important priorities, and I think it's important that the community realize that the TIF money isn't coming from their pockets, so to speak. But in looking at the tractor issues, do we get anything back for the tractors?
Yeah, so the main tractor, we would get a trade-in of about $3,000, and then the other one, the 1445, we would get about 1,000. Just because that one right now is not running,
Right.
so we wouldn't get much for it, but,
Oh, okay, thank you.
yeah.
So is the facility committee, I mean, you're gonna meet again, obviously, I think, we have this list of $9 million of projects or whatever throughout the district. I do think, I don't know if it's now or whenever, but I mean, you do have to, at some point, maybe take these items to your community and ask them, this is our list of our needs. Do you agree, with getting these all fixed, on an accelerated timetable by, having a referendum and raising funds for those at that time, if it's possible, if the voters agree with it. But I think if we can get that list, comprehensive list put together, and then ask ourselves, is this something, are some of these projects or a bulk of these projects something that we should be approaching our community with, rather than, trying to stretch this out over the next 10 years and hopefully, it'll all work out. It might be something that we should consider.
Well, it's interesting, Joel, the one thing that, especially this time, because, we've been meeting, because of the fact that, we've talked about, like, we're in deficit spending and that, and, and that's a different ball of wax, but it was almost like, I know for me, it was almost like, well, what money do we have? And so I guess, philosophically, we discussed, that maybe we should use some of the money, use that TIF money, from Manning, or money from the bonds that we had. So it's almost like, well, what do we have and what can be done with, what are the major things? But I know that's how I came at it from the beginning of this particular meeting, but your point is well taken. I mean, there's all kinds of things that need to be done. There's so many things, and it keeps getting like, if something breaks, then obviously we hear about that. But I think from where we were talking about at this meeting was, going in the direction of, do we agree that these two projects should go forward since the money's there?
Oh, yeah, I don't have any issue with the committee work and what they've chosen and or any of these projects. It's just, I know we have so many. And, I think at some point it's worth asking our community if they feel it's worth it as well for our students, to be in buildings that are
right.
ADA compliant and all the other infrastructure things that are not glamorous, that
Right.
it's one thing, to say, oh, we're gonna have a referendum and, do something wonderful with our buildings, and you'll see the difference. It's a little harder to convey that we need to replace the pipes, and we need to replace the chillers, and we need to update the toilets in the bathrooms so that students with disabilities can actually use them appropriately. So I think it's worth looking at it from that perspective, and I guess my question would be, if we were thinking of doing anything along those lines of a referendum, what kind of timeline do we need to work off of? I mean, obviously, we have an election next month, so that's not going to happen then, but, there's an election in the fall. That might be an opportunity to ask our community and for their input on this topic.
I know when I joined the facility committees a couple of years ago, it was surprising to me the breadth and depth of need and the typical annual spend and the enormous divergence between the two. And I couldn't agree more. At some point, we have to go to the community and ask and see if the community feels as strongly as those of us that are, living with it on a day-to-day basis, such as Joe and the rest of our administration and our staff and our students, if it's worth moving forward with a lot of really important things that, for lack of a better way to say it, they aren't the glamorous part of a referendum.
Because I kind of noticed that, like, when I did this audit, if you call it, this is almost a list that we created that was like a stop the bleeding list. Like, when I looked at the past 5 years and you see the budget for that year and then what was spent, the budget is pretty close to normally occurring issues. It would be 3 or 4 major issues going on that would just snowball and the budget's way over. But without those like catastrophic things happening, it is relatively close to what was set for that year. But like you say, we're at a point where the infrastructure is way past its time. I mean, we're past the lifespan of a lot of things in the district. And the other thing is, a lot of the district was updated in the late 90s, where now we're leaps and bounds above that, just with what's available now as opposed to what we have, and then the amount of money that we're spending on repairing what we currently have. It's just like the referendum, I think, would be a good thing to look at, because the projects we have are something that almost need to be done simultaneously. Like, if you're going to do X, you should do Y and Z along with it. So, if that is an option, I would say it would be beneficial, because you could do multiple things at once with that, whereas opposed to now, we would be kind of like piecing things along, still getting things done, but it would take much longer. So in that time it's taking, we're going to spend more money on repairs. Because there also is the junior high rooftop situation, which is, kind of the same deal. They were installed in the 90s. They're running an R22 refrigerant, which is no longer available. So it's extremely expensive to pay for now, which, you know, that's what they all run off of. So, you know, if you were able to do a referendum, I mean, you could take care of 80% of the issues in 3 or 4 years, you know.
I'm really
Do you have
happy
any-
that you brought that up, Joel. I remember, I think it was one of my first couple of meetings, the 5-year capital project plan was presented. And I was having a hard time understanding it because it was so much larger than it's almost like a fantasy list versus reality for our budget. And I was looking at our O&M fund, and please correct me if I'm misstating, but our O&M fund, I believe our expenditures for this budget year were $2.9 million roughly. And we're talking about 2 special projects that are 1.5, and really, they're not 1.5, because we know the plumbing is gonna be much more expensive.
Right.
So that's that's half of just, you know, 2 projects are half of our O&M fund. So I think it's a really wonderful conversation to have about the referendum. I think we also need to continue to prioritize a Plan B if that doesn't pass. And what we really want to prioritize our ask for the community and have a really good understanding as board members of what our facilities plan is long-term that's realistic within our budget. Because this is just kind of touching the surface.
Right.
And I fully support spending the money that we have to spend. Looks like there's additional $400,000 of working cash, which sounds like that would be gone pretty quickly with unexpected piping issues or whatnot. But I think having a larger, we've just been treading water for too long.
The projects that are left on the, like Joe said, like the project at the junior high that is also something that is a higher priority. It wasn't as high as these 2, but it was a higher priority. They're just large projects, and their only way to accomplish them is in large pieces. And so it has put us in a situation where we definitely have to consider a referendum. We definitely have to consider asking the community. I think as a facilities committee, we need to sit down and with Joe and Kim and just really find the right projects to focus on. Because I think we can continue, there's a lot of things we can continue being responsible with our maintenance and our repair, and to continue some things that we can continue and keep things going, keep certain things going. For example, the roof, like we talked about. At some point that opportunity is going to get away from us too, and we're going to have to do that roof. And I don't want to be in a position where we have to do it, because that's when it gets really difficult to find the best option. And I think there's a bunch of different options out there, and like you said, in the last 20 years, there's been massive changes in how things go together and how things work and efficiencies and all of that. We need to focus on that. And also from an ecological perspective and a conservation perspective, and how we're going to handle it going forward.
So what would a timeline look like for exploring this? So you mentioned possibly the election in the fall.
Well, that would be the next opportunity that I would see, right? And
Yeah,
then
yeah, I mean,
how much advance, I'm sure there's a couple months we would have to have things ready for that. But I mean, we would obviously, even before that, need to have a pretty solid list and an understanding of what the needs are.
And you need a committee of not us. We can't ask the community, but I think it's up to us to put the facts together to show what the need is. And it was interesting, and I don't have any problem with what you said, but it's almost like, I think it's more showing the community what the shape of our schools are like, and do they want to join us? I know I'm picking my words very slowly here. Instead of, I know we're asking for money, but part of it is almost like showing what it is and that hasn't been done in all that time.
And I also
so
think it's the
can we-
language that
Absolutely.
that goes on the referendum, on the ballot itself, so that people, when they get in the voting booth, they read it and they can understand. Because we put, in the past, I know we put kind of a complicated thing on there at one point, and everyone was like, not understanding it.
They have to understand whether they should vote yes or no.
Yeah.
And what
And
that
that was
means.
that
Yeah.
was troubling.
Yeah,
But I mean, I think if we can be very clear about what we're asking for and why we're asking for it and the projects, if they can even be listed in the description that goes on the ballot, it might help, for voters who, aren't as familiar with the district's needs as much as we like to,
Joel, unfortunately, wording on the ballot is very prescribed.
Okay.
And so we don't really have a lot of control over what that, there is certain, it's legal and, we can't really dictate exactly how that works, to give a more elaborate description or anything. It's a very prescribed wording that has to be on the ballot.
It's going to be up to us and some other community members to help us, and then
Right.
list our friends to
And this is, right, what we're talking about now starts
fourth,
it. You start talking about, look, we've got this budget, we've got these two projects, that's it,
Right.
So
Absolutely.
that's the piece that, and again, only because some of us have been through a referendum before, we can put all the facts together and answer questions, but the community has to kind of rise up to do that. But it is, I think it's important, and, John, I love you, I'm not trying to, I think it's almost, it's up to us to show the community, look, this is what's happening in our schools, and that we want to do it, but the money isn't there, so let's all do it.
Feel the
I'm
need.
not really in favor of a referendum right at this point. It has not been that long since the last one or the one before that. But I'd like to see, how the principals give us a wish list of what they like and what they can do with what they have. I'd prefer to see a big list. Whenever something big comes up, and I know we never know that it's gonna come up, it's usually out or something. I'm always amazed at how old it is, and I'm amazed at how the custodians have limped it around, or limped it along. And I just think I would feel more comfortable with some type of a list that had, this is probably gonna go next year, but based on, other history of, some of the things that
Here,
we're
Judy,
talking
you want
about.
it?
No.
I'm just visually, here you go, there you go.
Well,
So it sounds like regardless, we want to do one thing we have consensus as a board is a fact-finding mission and
Yes.
understanding better our obstacles
Sure.
that we're facing and the money that it will cost and the priorities that need to be made. Is that?
Yeah.
yes.
Well, first of all, from what we have here, the committee's given its recommendation, so those that are not on the committee, what do you, because of the fact, like we talked about using the TIF money instead of letting it just, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
What do you
I'm
guys-
totally comfortable with
I am
the
as well.
recommendation of the committee
I am too.
to spend the money that's there that needs to be spent.
So that's the first question, and then the second one is, yeah, the rest of the,
Well, I just think the committee needs to get back together again. Not tomorrow or the next day, but, within a very reasonable amount of time. And go over the list again and come up with the priority projects that maybe we could ask the community for. I
Right.
just think that's the
yeah.
best stuff.
It's
Sense.
it's at least, a lot of times you don't get the first referendum, heck, we didn't get the ones before, but I think if you start to talk about, just really inform the community,
Let's get the
perhaps
information out to them.
Yep.
that's exactly it, so. Okay, so we're good on this then?
Yes.
Okay, and thank you, Joe.
Yep, thanks, Joe.
And
And
thank you
then,
to the committee who I know spent hours discussing.
Yeah,
And you're welcome, Joe.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll talk about this more, Kim, as we get more information about
Right, and-
Manning.
And obviously, we'll be meeting, with Steve Cashman to go over this. We'll start again on the building automation system to start developing bid specs and things like that. If we see any inconsistencies with our original estimates, obviously we'll come back and address the board. Hopefully, we'll see that our estimates are high and not too low and things like that. And then again, once we have a good sense and feel for the building automation system, you know, we can begin developing the piping thing, but we'll have a better idea of kind of what, once we start that, what types of things does that ultimately entail, and is that going to be way more complex than we can really do? So we'll keep the board updated. And then, and I just want to make sure, are we okay with the expenditures from the O&M fund as well?
Yes.
Okay, all right, good. Thank you.
The one thing I just want to mention, again, because I try to always hear this from the perspective of people who aren't in the room, but when we're talking about these building automation systems, we're talking about heating and cooling these buildings. So I know sometimes that gets lost, and so, you know.
Not the nest. We're not putting in a nest.
We're not putting in a nest. But it's, you know, like when you have a system where, like, if the whole quarter of a building goes out, then they're either really, really hot or they're really, really cold. And that absolutely is an issue in those buildings. So, you know, we start to get into the we start to talk so much about this project that's called this, but what it means is heating and cooling. Heating and cooling. Okay, thank you, Joe, thank you. All right, we will move on to summer school program.
So at this meeting, we have the proposed summer school program, and then we'll be asking the board to approve it at the next board meeting. But essentially, it's very similar to last summer. The elementary school is proposing their summer base camp, which will run from June 8th through June 25th, from 8:30 until 11:30, Monday through Thursday. And this is for current grades, kindergarten through 5th. And the program will allow students to work on their reading, writing, and math skills, and transportation will be provided. The junior high will be offering a reading math course for current 6th and 7th graders. And this is designed to provide extra support in math and reading. And this again will meet from June 8th through June 25th from 8:30 to 11:30, Monday through Thursday. In addition, the junior high will also offer their STEM enrichment program for current 5th, 6th, or 7th graders, August 3rd through August 6th, from 8:30 until 11:30, Monday through Thursday. And then they'll have step up to 6th grade for the incoming 6th grade students, and that'll be August 10th and August 11th, 8:30 until 11:30, and transportation will be provided for all of our junior high classes. And then the high school will offer credit recovery and transition to math and English, June 8th through June 25th, 8:30 to 11:30, Monday through Thursday, and transportation is provided. Jump into AP Geography will be Monday, August 3rd, 10 to noon, and Tuesday, August 4th, 8 to 4, but that we do not provide transportation for. Freshman orientation will be August 10th, 8:30 to 11:30, for all incoming freshman students, and transportation will be provided. And the high school is also working on summer AP Calc and AP English. We'll have those details finalized by our next board meeting. And registration will open on March 15th and close on April 30th, 2020.
Hey, Kevin, I want to just comment about summer school. Last year, there was some parent comments about the timing of it. I'm just curious what perspective of the administrative staff of the timing for, maybe it was just elementary school, but how it's kind of in the beginning of the summer versus right before school started. And I wonder if you could shed a little light on the thoughts behind that.
It's first of all, it's easier for us to secure the teachers, to have it at the beginning of summer, and then also for the students, because they're kind of used to attending school, and so sometimes when you allow too much time to lapse, then it's more difficult to get them back excited about coming to summer school, and so that's why we've been doing it at the beginning of the summer.
Okay.
Okay,
That's it.
and these are all at the high school this year?
Yes, it'll be housed at the high school.
Just because and I know because people ask, because it was a couple years at junior high because of the renovations at the high school.
Right.
Okay, great. Any comments, questions? All right, the next item is class size discussion.
And the board asked for this to be on the agenda. Some of the documents that we had at our first discussion are there, but then also in your black folders are 2 additional documents. Again, one our current enrollment, but then also the local area schools and what their class sizes are. And if you look at where we're at and where they're at, we're kind of right in the range that they have for their various grade levels for each of the schools.
This is excellent. Thank you so much. I like how you also included, is this in board docs, so if the public wants
Yes,
to look at
it's
this?
attached in board docs,
They
yes.
can see. I really appreciate how there's also dual language class sizes, because that's something that's unique to our district. And a lot of very similar size schools and unit districts are included as well. I reached the same conclusion that you did about how the class sizes are very similar. One thing I did notice in some districts, the K through 2 has a different class size than, not in all, maybe not even in most, but the kindergarten through second grade had a smaller class size than we currently have, and has a different guideline or
Right.
procedure that they follow. And some of the dual language are much smaller. Like, for example, North Elementary School in Lombard has a class size of 15 for their dual language program. So it was, I think it's good to see that we are not highly outside the norm. That said, I would love, maybe it's the inspiration of the DeFore Award, but I would love to see a continued focus on how we can utilize our elementary buildings, and that was really apparent last night at our parent meeting as well, of maximizing the elementary buildings so we can have what our parents want us to have. Keeping class sizes on the smaller, as small as we can reasonably do. We've got space issues at one elementary building more than the other. So as much as it's good to see that we're well within the norms of the community, I still say, how can we do better?
Sure.
And is there areas that we can maximize our ability as a unit district to see our elementary schools more as a one entity versus two separate entities? We had discussed that when we first talked about class sizes. I don't know what that would look like, an examination of that in our systems.
Right.
But that was my thoughts on that new information.
Yeah, I just building off of Dana's comments, I appreciate this information. I think it is really helpful. It's been helpful for me. I hope it's helpful for the community in terms of how we compare. And it does appear like, relatively speaking, we're not completely out of line in terms of our class size. I think all of the research does indicate that obviously if we can lower class size, that's going to help our student population. So everyone is acknowledging that. But we also have to think about all of the students in our elementary buildings. And I agree, it's come up in several of the conversations about how do we maximize the buildings we have and the faculty we have in order to best address the needs of all of the students across the district. And I guess what I'm wondering is, I know we're mid-strategic planning process right now, but there's also some urgency for certain issues to be addressed in a priority order. And I guess from my perspective, the idea of evaluating what we could do across our unit district in terms of the elementary schools is really an urgent issue. I think not just because of class size, but because of all of the resource utilization that we may or may not see some efficiencies from if we took a stronger look at that. So I guess the question I'm leading to, Kevin, from your perspective is, as we've been going through this strategic planning process and ideas have been bubbling to the surface, do you think there is something within that unit district elementary school building discussion that we could elevate to the front of the agenda, sort of not trying to hijack the strategic planning process, but recognizing that we could probably at least vet some solutions that we might be able to implement sooner than later.
And I think, right now, just so that you know, the administrative team, you know, Kim mentioned the budget deficit before, and we've already, you know, we're starting those staffing conversations. With that comes, how do you best utilize your resources? And so that's kind of the angle we're looking at it, is more from how do we best and most efficiently utilize all of our resources. So my answer is yes, that is something that we're focused on, and we won't necessarily wait till, you know, we have the completed strategic plan, but that's something that we need to look at, just in terms of making sure we can still provide the same level of service for our students and families, while at the same time, you know, closing that gap.
You know, Kevin, I was interested, I mean, I appreciate this quite a bit, also on what both of my colleagues have said, that like there's some schools that split their classes, you know, higher than us, or, you know, or have a lower high and low in that, and I found that very interesting. And again, we're right in the ballpark of where most of these other schools, like this one down at Downers Grove, they don't split till they're high at 31. So I found that very interesting. But two other things come to mind. So when we look at our current enrollment and class size, you know, we're 21, 20, 25, 20, 18, 22 at Manning alone. And then dual language, 19, 18, 23, 22, and the mono, same kind of numbers.
Yeah.
So if you look at just the numbers, if you're just looking at numbers, what's interesting there is that what I find interesting is one of the conferences that we were just at, they were talking about, they had a room full of educators, and they're like, what's the perfect class size? Were you there that day? They said 3 less than what you currently have.
Oh, yeah, yes. Yeah.
So, and everybody in the room laughed, because the question came up, is there a perfect number? And so I guess for me, it's I like how this one school, what is this, Schaefer Elementary, they also list the coach and the teaching specialist and that kind of thing. So I guess that's another piece that goes into all of it. Utilizing what we have, okay?
Right.
So, like, I called Kevin this afternoon, as I always do. So I said, okay, let's go up to BB Elementary and tell me if that's a typo, because it said they start off with 25 in primary and they end up in 18 in intermediate. So I thought that was a typo. And then Kevin explained it as the following.
It's, at the lower grades, they have self-contained, so you would think, you know, 2 sections of 25. But then when they get to the 4th and 5th grade, now they have, each of those teachers becomes a content specialist. So one teaches math, one teaches ELA, one teaches the social studies, science. And so then, because of that model, they then have 3 sections, because they need 3 content specialists. And so that's why you see, typically you see the lower class sizes at the lower grades, and then it increases as the students get older, but because of their model, they have larger class sizes at the early grades, and then more sections at the upper grades.
And the other thing you said, it's like, that's what we do at our.
Right, that's what we do at Manning right now.
Yeah. At Manning. So it is an interesting thing, that it's not just a number. I mean, you gotta have a guideline or something somewhere, but it is interesting, because I think there was a few years ago, and I don't know if it was a facilities discussion or whatever, there was some talk about using the buildings that we have, and especially with our successful dual language program. And what can you do with that? Well, each of the buildings only have so many classrooms. So it is an interesting conversation all along in that what do you do, how do you use what we have? Because, again, you know, this is a great piece to give us numbers, but, and I'm not saying these other schools don't have some of the other resources we have, but that would be interesting to know too, because we do have really good additional resources. So,
Sure.
you know,
Is there any, can you walk me through a little bit about how staffing conversations, so I've looked at the budgeting timeline, and so each building principal is looking at their building and their staffing needs. So as we're talking about utilizing space differently and staffing differently, especially being a deficit in that educational fund, what would you expect that process would look? I would like to understand as a school board member, as a new one, but also for our parents that are curious of what that would look like.
Well, basically, it's going to start this Thursday.
Okay.
And typically, what it starts with is me giving the admin team a target of where I would like to see our FTE for the district be. You know, that doesn't mean that
Could you explain that, since
Sure.
her question was for the community, what
Sure.
FTE is?
So FTE is full teaching equivalents, so full-time teachers. So how many full-time teachers we'd have in the district? And then from there, but at the same time, the principals are looking at their needs that are specific to their buildings, and they may have, you know, a need or a desire. One example, last year, for instance, at the elementary level, at the time, we had one social worker between the two buildings. The elementary principals really thought it was important to have a social worker at each building. So they're bringing what their needs are in terms of teaching and full-time teaching. And then it becomes a process of, okay, how can we make that work for you, but at the same time reach this goal that we're trying to reach. And so then, depending upon, you know, sometimes we can work within our current, you know, system, and other times, you know, it may have to start getting a little creative in how we utilize our staff and everything. And so, depending upon how that conversation goes, then there could be something brought to the board to consider as a possible way for us to better utilize our resources and what that would look like, and then we take it from there.
So when we're looking at it at a building level, we're looking at the needs of the building, but also things like space,
Right.
enrollment, our budget. And what about other resources like our nursing staff? I'm trying to think of things that were brought up last night.
Right,
Nursing
so-
staff.
Social workers.
So it's your
Special
ELL,
education,
it's ELL,
ELLs.
it's special ed, it's reading specialists, it's all those. So you're looking at the needs of the students, you're looking at the needs of the buildings, and so it's all those pieces. Yeah.
You know, one thing I know we looked at and I don't mean to interrupt you, but one thing we did look at, and we looked at was the demographic for the next, what do they do, 10-year? Remember that?
Projection, yeah.
What's the name of that? There's a
Just-
company that does that
Oh,
or something. So we looked at that, like, do we see in our school, like, a big, you know, demographic, like, you know, all of a sudden, is there gonna be a big shift? So you kind of look at that in terms of.
As far as like enrollment?
Yes.
We're gonna have a
yes.
baby boom?
Correct.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
And so they
Babies have
do.
been born in the last few years.
They do a study like 10 years out, and they look at that. So that is something that I remember us looking at a few years back. But one thing I have a note here, and you also told us, and correct me if I'm wrong, that when you're looking at that, you look at each grade.
Right.
Because maybe a grade might have more students with IEPs or
Specific needs.
that. So you look at
Right,
that
right.
in addition. Am I correct on that?
That's correct,
Okay.
yeah.
So, when you said outside, I just remembered that we had looked at that, like, what is the,
Is it Casarda?
Casarda? That was one of them.
Yeah.
Is that the author or something that put it together, so, anyway.
I mean,
So, I didn't mean to.
it sounds like a good process. I'm glad to hear the conversations are starting now and that you're factoring in some of the things that are being talked about in the strategic plan meetings and some of the community involvement so far and feedback so far. And I don't know, I, for one, am excited to see what you guys bring back to us.
Okay, did the board get their questions answered in this topic? Because we've talked about before, so far. So, and obviously with,
Right.
you know, nothing is ever,
So,
there's no goal, you know, like.
well,
keep
just to
going.
follow, because this has been a conversation among a lot of, we've had a lot of public comments about this. So I just want to
Right.
make sure we're clear on follow-up, how we're going to respond to public comments and about this issue, which is why it's on the discussion today. So so we should expect to hear more about staffing at buildings and ideas for utilization of staffing and space and resources this spring.
Yes, I mean, a lot of our, planning, we like to have done by March.
Okay?
So I would anticipate, yes, you know,
Okay.
and depending upon how, this Thursday goes, and there may be another meeting, there might be something to bring to the board to discuss at our next board meeting. It kind of depends on how those conversations are shaped. So,
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah,
If I
'cause
could
we
just
have
quickly add, Dana, this is actually the first response from the board. This is showing that the area schools and our class sizes are fairly in line with what's going on with us, because that was one of the questions that came up. Now, I agree that there should be other conversations, but this should be, that's why I'm glad it's attached to board docs. So if a parent asks you, you can say, well, you can go take a look, and the average of the districts around us is right around these same numbers. Not saying we shouldn't improve, okay? But that would be my, if a parent came up to me, that would be my first response.
I just look, we have one meeting in March.
Right.
Which some idiot put on for St. Patrick's Day.
I know.
And I'm looking at you and me. Anyway, so we have one more meeting in February, and then we have one in March.
So are we allowed to have green beer at the board meetings? No.
Do whatever you want. Yeah, I just wanted to look on that, so, so there's one in March.
Right.
Okay. Moving on. The next topic is update on tax increment financing or TIF district revenues.
Right, so as we discussed a little bit earlier, there's a Central Business District TIF in the downtown area of Westmont. And several years ago, the board reached an agreement with the village regarding that TIF. And it was agreed that the district would be entitled to $15 million of TIF revenue from that. So there were projections, and you can see in my report that's attached, there's an estimated TIF payments projected by the village. So when they had done the study, this is what they expected we would receive over a 16-year period, that by the end of 16 years roughly, we would have received all of our TIF money. And obviously the projects are not progressing as they had anticipated. So instead of by the end of year 6 having received $2.4 million, the district has received $242,000. So a difference of about $2.2 million less. Obviously, if we had received $2.4 million, there's a lot of things that we could begin doing at Manning. That money may only be used at Manning because it's in the TIF district. And you can see, when you look at this, the payment that we just received in December, we received $89,765. They were projecting that our payment for year 6 would have been $840,000. They're expecting well over $1 million of payments for subsequent years. Obviously, we're not going to hit that target. But anyway, so I just wanted to give you an update about where we are and what the remaining payments that are left due to the district.
It is nice to see that it's growing every year.
Yes, it is. It is.
So Why? Why is it, I mean, there's a difference of $2 million. What?
Well, because they thought that there would be other developments that would come in, and we've had discussions about, you know, certain, development, you know, just north of the railroad tracks. Those haven't materialized. So it's just in that area. If you look at, there's a TIF, you know, in 63rd Street area, you can see a lot happening down there. So that TIF obviously would start bringing in a lot more revenue to Marker School District that's part of that area. So in order for us to receive more money, I mean, there is some stuff going on the southwest side of the downtown, you know, just by the railroad tracks. And so, you know, in a few years, we should start to see some larger payments. But until we see a lot more development happening, redevelopment happening in that downtown area, we won't be seeing large payments.
Anecdotally, do you know how long the 63rd Street TIF district, is it older, newer?
I think it's about the same.
It was about 1 year ahead of us.
Yeah, I want to say 1 or 2 years ahead.
You're ahead
I was
of
curious.
the downtown one.
And TIFs have to build up money before they can start reaching out to developers, so that's why they always start slow.
And these estimates came from their people.
Yeah, I need the
They're
need to
paid
build up, but
experts.
1 year we made,
Yeah.
you know, we're just really behind
We're at 10th.
a tenth.
We are 90% behind.
Okay, anything else on that? Then we will move to, we were asked to put this on here. Judy had asked to put students leading the pledge at board meetings.
I did. I've mentioned it to Marie a couple of times. It just kind of just got on the back burner. I've seen it on other channels in other communities, and it seemed to have a good response. The child's parents and grandparents would come, and since ours are taped as well, it might be something just really nice for a student to come and do. Represents our country, good or bad, and by the time they get up to junior high and they do those speeches for the persuasive speeches, John makes sure they know everything about the military, really. But it does symbolize something that our veterans fought for. And if it was my choice, because somebody would say, how do you choose somebody to do this? I would say I would probably see if there was an interest, see if there was a principal that might think of somebody, and maybe that somebody might not be at the top of the class, but needs to be recognized in another way. And I just thought this would be a way to do it.
Well, and when Judy brought it up to me, I said, I love it, but let's just check with the board and see if everybody.
Yeah, I love the idea, and honestly, the first thought I had when you said it was, not only could we do something that we've all sort of lightly discussed, which is get the students more involved in the board conversations. I think just having more students here and present would be great, especially the older students have had some good input in the past. But I also got excited about the idea of our dual language students
Yes,
coming.
I thought of that.
And leading the pledge in both English and Spanish. That happens around my house often, when play dates, and they just start saying the pledge in both languages. And it's really a neat experience and really brings home the impact of that program and all of the various positive benefits that program has. So I think that would be really neat as well. So I love the idea.
Yeah, I would love to see a dual language. I would love to see them say the pledge and then us say the pledge maybe. I thought of that as well, right off the top.
Well, we could, if we all like that idea, we could, at our agenda meetings, talk about, like, you know, reaching out to each school, like each school gets a chance to do something, you know, representative of, and.
I'll talk to the principals about it.
Yeah, and we can figure that out, so. And again, I have said this a number of times from the ISB things, I would love to see students come in. I know one year, I had really wanted to get maybe some of the kids in that were doing the musical, but it turned out that they didn't have the rights to do that and tape it, because our meetings are taped, so we couldn't do it. But other things like that, so I think I'd like to
Oh, good.
I'm all
look
for it.
into that, so.
Great idea.
All right. Wonderful. Okay, action item. We are, at this time, just removing the first item until there are more specifics on that, the approval of the athletic sponsorship. So we will revisit that at another time. Now we have the approval of the bid for the chiller replacement at Westmont High School.
Okay, as you recall, the chiller at the high school needs to be replaced. And so we did go out to bid for that. And we had a very large turnout of responses, so 11. That's, I think, one of the larger that we've seen in the district. And Steve Cashman and I and Joe evaluated the bids for, based on all the criteria in the bid scope and in the bid thing. And so we are not recommending the lowest bid. We are recommending the second lowest bid with AMS Mechanical Systems. And that recommendation, you've got some information in your board packet based on their qualifications, experience, and responsiveness to the requirements of the bid. So we're recommending AMS in the amount of $261,200, which that, even the second lowest bid, was lower than our original estimate. Does anybody have other questions?
I'm sorry, you're saying this is actually lower than our original estimate?
Yeah, it was around
Okay.
280.
Nope, I'm fine.
Okay. Then we will move on with the motion. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the chiller replacement base bid with AMS Mechanical Systems in the amount of $261,200 at Westmont High School as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stromeyer?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes?
Mrs. Coyle?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, superintendent's report.
A couple items in my report. As we heard earlier this evening, again, congratulations to Westmont High School on winning the DeFore Award. And again, this accomplishment is a testament to the hard work and commitment of the administrators, staff, students, and school community. And then also on Wednesday, February 5th, at Manning Elementary School, I attended the Creating a Compassionate Community Day. And it really was a great day of activities for the students to gain a better understanding of compassion to others and how to develop empathy for others. And I just wanted to congratulate, there were 4 parent coordinators that really did an amazing job organizing the entire day, and that was Dana Hajak, Amanda Harrison, Roxanne Engstrom, and Sonia Lopez Rivero. And then also Principal Lindsay Peterzak was involved in the planning of that day. And then we had so many parents and community volunteers. Thank you to everyone who helped to participate and support that day. It was really a great day. And I believe the 25th, we're going to have a presentation at our February 25th.
Yeah, I
board
was in touch with Dana Hajak, and I asked her what day would work, and so she said that would be a good day.
That's it? Oh, yes, I'm sorry. And one other thing, this is probably good news for our students, but the calendar that we approved for 2021, we actually had a couple extra days in there. So the last day of school for the 2020-21 school year will be May 26th. So, yeah, yes, we had a couple days in there.
So,
And the ROA did approve that, so we're all good.
okay, we're good. So we will post that.
Yeah, we'll get that posted.
Get that posted. And again, it always is if no snow days,
Correct.
which knock wood so far this year.
Right.
Except if you have a senior who's really still hoping for some snow days, but whatever. Okay, are there any board reports?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Kevin already mentioned the Creating a Compassionate Community Day, but I was able to participate in that day as one of the community members involved, and it was truly amazing. I can't wait for the presentation on the 25th. I hope you all are as impressed as I was, and I think really the best part about that whole day was just seeing how this community came together. And it was everybody from every different area, and really did that to support the kids. But I think most of the adults who attended left feeling like they needed to practice their compassion skills even more, so it helped me a lot as well. So I just, again, thank you to those parents and the administration. It was a great, really great event, and I hope we can bring it to other schools.
I wanted to bring up that this weekend is the Westmont High School musical, which is always a great time. It is a great night, 3 nights of entertainment for very little money. This year it's Once on This Island, and I don't know if some of you have seen, but they recently brought in students who were alum who did this same musical at our high school. And they brought them in to interact with our kids now. They just did this last week. So it's pretty, that's another one of those things that just is, small giants. But it is Friday and Saturday, February 14th and 15th at 7 o'clock. And Sunday, it's, on the 16th, it's at 2 o'clock. And tickets are available at the door. And it is not pre-selected seats. So if you have some time, go check it out. We've got great singing, dancing, musicians, and backstage, a lot of work. So, any other board reports?
The Westmont High School Boosters had a very successful fundraiser last Friday. They had tons and tons and tons of raffles. It took them over an hour to draw tickets and dispense, and they did a wonderful, wonderful job putting that together. It was so nice to see the place packed for both games, and they're going to be having another booster meeting on February the 20th. If anybody's interested, or any parents that may have junior high kids that want to find out more about it, they'd welcome anybody coming.
Likewise, on Friday, I attended the talent show at Manning, which was wonderful. Lots of talent. A wicked Rubik's Cube player who fixed a Rubik's Cube very fast. And I also got to attend a booster club meeting and a band boosters meeting. And it was really nice to get to hear. I'm not familiar with either one of those organizations, so it was nice to get to know more about the organizations and all the wonderful parent volunteers we have in both. I also just want to thank Kevin for last night's parent meeting, for our joint committee meeting about the strategic plan. And I also wanted to thank all the parents that came. We had a really wonderful turnout and got to hear lots of different diverse perspectives. And it was wonderful to listen to that. And I also wanted to ask Kevin, if parents weren't able to come that night, how can they get involved with the strategic plan?
We will have other meetings for parent input, and so we'll email those out and we'll post that on the website. So parents just need to watch for those, and we'll have upcoming dates for that.
Okay, anything else? All right, then future meetings and events. A parent university, teen resiliency with HFTD. Do we know what that is? Okay, that's at Westmont Junior High School, February 12th at 6 o'clock. And then, as we talked about, the spring musical, Once on This Island, February 14th at 7, February 15th at 7, and February 16th at 2 o'clock, and that's at Westmont High School Auditorium. President's Day, no school on February 17th. The incoming 9th grade night, as it will be at the high school on February 20th at 6:30 p.m. And our next school board meeting will be February 25th at 6 o'clock here at Westmont Village Hall. Are there any public opinions, public comments? Really? The chair will entertain a motion to enter closed session. Are we done? Do we have to?
No, we don't
We're
need to.
done.
Yeah, we're done.
Okay, so we don't have to do closed session. The chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.
There's students.